Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Pisces for June 2018. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, see what's new on my blog, and if you would love to be an astrologer or learn just for your own self-development, check out my Astrology Apprenticeship program that will start enrolling again in June, the beginning of June, June 1st. Okay, so what's going on this month? We've got a very powerful month where we're starting eclipse season. The eclipses don't officially start until July. We've got 3 eclipses in this cycle, 2 in July and 1 in August. And even though they're not starting till July, you will, if you've listened to my reports before, you've heard me tell you, you will often see manifestations from these eclipses 4 to 6, even sometimes 8 weeks before. But the closer we get to the actual event, the increase in the odds of something happening will occur. So when we're looking at astrological transits, we're looking at probabilities. We're looking at possibilities and probabilities. It's not definites. They're increases in probabilities and possibilities. That's what we're looking at. But it's important to note these because if you understand what's going on, you can utilize them better. Okay, so the way that I'm setting up my eclipse education for the next several months is for this June report, I'm going to focus on the partial solar eclipse at 20 degrees. That's going to occur on July 12th because we're getting really close and there's a good chance you're going to see some manifestations in June. So I'm going to talk about the manifestations for that eclipse in the June report. In my July report, I'll talk about the total lunar eclipse at 4 degrees, almost 5 degrees of Aquarius on July 27th. And then the August report, I'll talk about the partial solar eclipse at 18 degrees of Leo and where you can see this in your chart. Okay, so if you want to see how these eclipses can affect you personally, then pay attention to my June, July, and August reports, and I'll focus on each one of the eclipses. So this video, I'm going to talk about this partial solar eclipse at 20 degrees of Cancer. So for you early and well, really for all Pisces except the very end of the sign, you're going to have this eclipse occur in your 5th house. And if you're in the last few days of the sign, you may experience what I'm about to describe in the 5th house, or you may see the energy in the 4th house, okay? The 4th house has a little bit of a different energy. So for those of you at the very end of the sign, you might see new opportunities, new growth, new chapters open up in your house of home and housing and real estate and family. You might see a new entrance into your family through marriage or through child. You may see a new person move into your home through roommate or some other way. You may buy another house, sell a house, have a deep psychological healing from your childhood. Something notable new involving home and family for you late degree placements. For the rest of you, and really all of you, look out for these manifestations in your 5th house. So just remember again what we're looking at when we're looking at eclipses. A solar eclipse brings in new possibilities. The lunar eclipse ends things. But those are black and white descriptions we try to give to understand them better. But the truth of it is, whenever you have a new beginning, you're really ending something, right? Because when you're starting something new, the thing that you were doing before, you're not doing that anymore. And whenever something ends, it leaves the room for something to begin. So when we look deeper at it, there's really more gray area than there is black and white. So we just say the eclipses are this magical time of trajectory changes, radical and sudden trajectory changes, dramatic culminations, closings, endings, accomplishments, and new opportunities coming in. So for the 5th house, what Pisces energy has an increased chance of experiencing is new love, new romance, new fertility, new creativity, and fun. This is a house that rules children or creative babies. Some people don't have children, they have their creations are their babies, and some people have human kids and their creations. But that that process, this house of Leo, the fifth house, rules this process from idea, so the conception, to the carrying, to the labor and the birth, to the child rearing or stewardship of the project. So anything new, a new chapter for any of these things can come in. And of course, romance is here too. So new romance in your existing relationship, love coming back from the past, or just someone coming in that's new. If somebody does come in that's new and you've never seen them or known them before, just proceed cautiously. It doesn't mean that there's not great potential. It just means that when Mars goes into retrograde, as it will on June 26th, there's this great potential for jets to cool. Okay, so if you meet in the earlier part of June, then by the end, when Mars starts to go retrograde, things might shift. So you don't want to make it, if you can, unless intuition is telling you otherwise, you always have to let your intuition and your flow supersede anything I or anyone else says. But since we know that there's a good chance that things will shift, trying to not like move in together, get engaged, things like that, make big steps along the way will help because the energy is sort of moving backwards. But it doesn't mean you can't be open to the potentials. It doesn't mean that if things are flowing for you to move forward in relationship that you shouldn't follow it, you know, definitely follow your flow. So that's what this solar eclipse is all about, you know. So here in the midst of the Mars retrograde energies coming in, and I have so much more information on Mars retrograde for you. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it in the general transit, which I'm about to go into right now. But I also have a blog and a video. So if you search for Annie Botticelli Mars retrograde, you can see what this is all about. It's a very long transit too. So look out this month for this new creativity, this new love, this new passion. And also it could be a new hobby or a hobby from the past that comes back with like a resurgence. There's this energy of fun and hobbies and just fun for the sake of itself. This also rules acting, by the way, and singing and athleticism. So some of you do those things for work, but it's here under this like passion energy. So you might see new things in that arena as well. So those are the things that are most on my mind for June for Pisces regarding where the solar eclipse may open new doors or bring in new possibilities. And now I want to go into more details about lots of things to be aware of, my favorite dates this month, the things to look out for, and my general theme for the month that you'll definitely be feeling. So I'm going to go into all that now. So I'm calling the theme of June 2018 for all signs, the magical act of releasing attachment, with a sub-theme or sub-themes of recreation and recreation. This abundance of air energy this month is going to bring a lot of restlessness, this need to move, variety seeking, the urge to communicate and connect will be very strong. And there will be many opportunities for this as well. So trips, travel near and far, sparkling conversations, chances to connect with people online and in person, a lot of busyness. People often notice when the sun is in Gemini and at this time of year, we've got a lot of busyness. You know, you'll see that things are ramped up. You're here, you're there, you're moving around. There's lots of things that you're trying to pull together. And also interests and things can be coming up and could be all over the board. The urge to move and express will be increased from this energy, but for many people, the desire for movement will be towards recreation rather than productivity. And this is compliments of the impending Mars retrograde transit. We've been talking about this for a long time. I've been prepping you for this. And of course, you can look at my blog, Your Guide to Mars Retrograde, and you can look at my video on the topic. You can just put in Annie Botticelli Mars Retrograde, and you'll pull up my other resources to go deeper into this. But for the most part, for most people, ambitions start to wane. Okay, so the key theme that occurs so much in Mars Retrograde is frustration. But it doesn't have to be that way. That only happens if you're trying to go at your usual pace in that transit that's not wanting you to do that. So if you take cues from what's happening and you stop trying to force things, like dropping your agenda, this is one of the reasons why I'm calling this the theme this month, the magical act of releasing attachment. If you drop your agendas, then you can flow more. If you give yourself permission to chill, then the odds of frustration will be much less because you're not trying to push up against this wall of energy that's pushing backwards. So there are some people, however, that have the opposite effect when Mars is in retrograde. Mars rules movement, and some people, and how you use your energy, it rules the assertiveness, that get up and go, your oomph. So if you were born with Mars retrograde in your natal chart, you might have the opposite effect when Mars goes into retrograde. You might be what some people might call lazy or laid back or not ambitious most of the time. But then something crazy happens, maybe you haven't known what it was until now, then Mars retrograde comes and you get lit up while everybody else is going the other way. So that's why I always say, above everything, you have to honor your own personal flow and your intuition when you're listening to horoscopes, because there are always caveats to the general things that we share through horoscopes. So in any case, I always like to give you the heads up, because if you notice yourself getting what you describe as lazy, and then you're trying to give yourself a hard time about it, you can make this month and this transit, which runs from the end of June to the end of August, but really it started May 11th when the shadow period started, and it goes through the beginning of October. This is a long time. So if you understand this is going on, it's more likely that you can give yourself permission to relax. And if you give yourself permission to relax, pure genius can come to you when you're in that relaxed state. The way I like to describe the magic that can happen with this energy is with a typical story. I know myself, I've heard many situations where, let's say a couple is trying to have a baby and they're having trouble getting pregnant, and there's so much stress and there's pressure and they're putting it on and they're worried, and all of this energy is going towards this certain outcome. Then when they make the decision to adopt, sometimes they get pregnant. And the doctors chalk it up as the stress was released from the venture, right? So this is the energy that I want you to remember during this time, because a massive amount of magic, a massive amount of inspiration can come from that quiet time, like the Shavasana at the end of a yoga session. That quiet little short time of integration, of rest, integrates all of the work done prior. And very often when Mars is in retrograde, work that you've done before comes to you. So this energy of being like a spider that's going to be a theme that continues for a while, where you've done work, now you're letting everything come to you, is a good one to follow. Now, if you do have some things that you have to push through, and you don't want to wait until December when we're done with Mars retrograde, then Mercury retrograde, then Venus retrograde, then there are some points here in June where you could do that. And my favorite days are right in the beginning of the month. But I'll go into more details about that. But if you do have some things that you have to push through and you feel that they're, intuitively it's time to do it, then you might be able to take advantage of that energy. Okay, so I really love this month for vacations, because this desire to rest and slack makes an increase in the possibility that you'll enjoy the vacation and you'll leave your worries and work behind. So if you are a traveler, or you're planning a trip, or you just like to read about travel stuff, you can check out my website, Astrology Kissed Travel Bliss, and I do monthly astrology travel reports so that you can understand some highlights as far as it relates to travel, and there are also fun blogs and inspiration for travel. There's a new moon on June 13th, and this is another increase in this opportunity for travel, adventures near and far, connecting with siblings, cousins, and other relatives. If you have to make a last-minute purchase of a communication device, if you know that coming soon your car or your phone or something is due to get, if you're due to get a new one, this time around, the beginning of the month or around this new moon of the 13th, might be a good time to squeeze these things in, because Mars rules metal. And well, it's one of the, of course it's complicated, but things that are made of metal are under the rule of Mars. So buying machinery, utilizing machinery, and of course everything has metal in it, all of our devices. The energy is better for it when we're further away from the retrograde. So if you can help it, sometimes you might not be able to help it, in which case don't worry, just go with the flow. But if you know it's coming, you might want to take advantage of this, this time in the middle of the month. So increasing your recreation time is a great goal. If you're going to have any goals during this time, it would be goals to have more fun and goals to relax and goals to take vacations and even goals to study, but in a laid back, leisurely way. You know, this is a time that can greatly favor education, but especially in flexible programs that allow you to go at your own pace so that if you turn out to lose some ambitions, that you're not penalized. If you're interested in education that feels more like a hobby rather than a stressful obligation, then it's very well indicated during this Mars retrograde, because we could see that as part of a focus on recreation. You might notice a slowdown in work, finances, romance, etc. But like I said, there is an amazing chance for you to reap rewards from the past. So things may slow down in some senses, but things from the past could come to fruition now without you even doing anything, and it might seem quite magical. If you have to do some work-related things, it's better to focus on clients from the past, ideas from the past, things like that, if at all possible. These retrogrades tend to make things get called into question. So things that were set or intended may drastically change form during this time or become irrelevant or uninteresting. So just notice the cycle, you know, and just because something isn't, you know, kind of goes away from your energy field at this time, it doesn't mean it's forever. I know I personally have Aries rising, and Mars rules Aries, so I notice that I'm very much affected by this transit. Everybody's affected by it, but people with Aries and Scorpio placements, strong Aries and Scorpio placements, and you notice it more because Mars rules Aries and co-rules Scorpio. But I've noticed that I just love this energy because it helps you to relax. And whenever this happens now, I plan my rests for this time. But if you didn't know that this were coming, you might think, wow, what is happening to me? I'm like this. So I feel like when Mars retrograde, like, wow, I'm never going to be ambitious again. That's so weird. And then as soon as Mars goes direct, I'm back to my normal ambitious self. You know, so it's just interesting to watch your own personal cycles with this. And as I mentioned before, you might have the opposite occur, and notice that too. Learning astrology and using astrology is one big experiment, you know, and the more you learn about what's going on and then you pay attention to your personal flow with that, the more you learn about the art and the science. Okay, so many people are going to be questioning many things in life, but there will be a special focus for the job, profession, life path, because of the time that Mars is going to spend getting back into Capricorn. And since it spends most of the time retrograde in Aquarius, this strong focus on reconsidering or considering for the future, defining or redefining projects or relationships involving nonprofits, humanitarian efforts, technology, and other futuristic innovations, groups, things having to do with groups and teams and friends and friendships and acquaintances, social circles, and social media are all within this Mars and Aquarius energy. You might notice a lot of push and pull between home and work, home and family, mother and father, because we have a notable amount of oppositions between the Cancer and Capricorn energy. So this can bring a lot of overstimulation between home and family and work and your place out in the world. Overstimulation doesn't necessarily mean bad or good. It's just that there are opposing forces that are both demanding equal and extra focus, which can make you feel torn between these competing interests. But we do also have some great aspects with Uranus that can bring amazing insights and breakthroughs or happy surprises. So there are many times in this month where beautiful aspects are coupled with challenging ones. So good news and challenges could present simultaneously. You might see that going on. Okay, so the energy of this Cancer eclipse, we talked about where it would hit for you personally in your chart, but the general energy that everyone has this increased chance of experiencing is having to do with housing, home, and other family opportunities will likely be a dominating theme. There's something that a dermatologist said to me recently that I always wind up applying these random things to astrology, you know. So she said that there's an increase in skin cancer risk for people who have light-colored eyes, that there's something genetic about that relationship. Okay, so that doesn't mean that all people who have light-colored eyes are going to get skin cancer, and it doesn't mean that all people who don't have light-colored eyes are not. But this increase in probability is how I always frame astrology. There's an increase in probability of the things that these transits tend to bring. And it doesn't mean that everybody's going to experience these things that are common. It just means there's an increase in probability. You know, the odds are more likely, like on a day when the meteorologist says, rain is 90% today. Sometimes it doesn't rain, you know, but there's that increased chance. And that's what I want you to understand about the nature of these transits and the nature of these potentials. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of other dates to highlight this month. And if you want more details about dates and transits of note, then definitely go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com. Sign up for my free email newsletter. You can also sign up at cozybysweetstarlight.com, which is where I also have written horoscopes, cozybysweetstarlight.com. If you sign up at either of those places for my free newsletter, I write a monthly write-up with more details about these general transits in a written version a month ahead than I give in the video. Okay, so it supplements what we're going to do here. If you have to do anything in June, important, money, love, you know, beauty choices, anything that you have to do, the creative projects, anything important. I love the first several days of the month. We've got beautiful Venus and Jupiter trine, and then Venus trines Neptune. So that's my favorite time of the month, besides the middle of the month, the 13th, with that new moon in Gemini. We've got a little bit of challenging energy after that, like the 5th through the 7th. Logic bumping up against intuition and some challenges there. Definitely take a moment to center yourself before walking, driving, biking, etc. And try to resist the urge to text while biking or text while walking or text while driving, because it just, this energy increases the odds of accidents. You want to be paying attention more. There's another sweet spot here in the middle of the month where I told you the new moon on the 13th. And then there's a nice aspect between Mercury and Uranus, but at the same time, there's a challenging one with Venus and Uranus. And some other challenges there in the middle of the month. We've got another sweet spot, June 19th through the 20th, when Mercury makes a trine to Jupiter. And then we have Mars going retrograde on the 26th. When a planet goes retrograde, there's a lot of awkwardness. So just look out for awkwardness around that time. Then there's the full moon in Capricorn on June 27th, and this will bring completion, fruition, accomplishment, or drama into the realms of work, career, father figures, and your place out in the world. So those are the things that are most on my mind for this month. Definitely check out my websites, anniehelpsyou.com, if you're interested in learning astrology as a profession or just for your self-development. If you'd like to be a coach, I have a coach training program. I have an astrology apprenticeship program. I also have a course called Creating Successful Online Business, where I teach you how to create an online presence and funnel it into your services that will help you to live the life that you want and not be geographically bound. If you want written horoscopes that are focusing on different areas than the videos that I make, then go to cozybysweetstarlight.com. If you would like to get information about astrology travel reports that I write for each month, then go to astrologykissedtravelbliss.com. And definitely check out my husband's website, iamhelios.com, iamhelios.com, for wonderful astrology and tarot readings. He also has some really cool free offerings on his site that bring sound vibrations that you can download that help to soften the energies of the current transits. So that's something really cool he's doing. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.